Hi, and good morning. This is Harlan Simon of harlanglass.com. Welcome back. Today we will have some exciting segments for you at Expert Village, and in particular I will demonstrate a pinwheel style design technique that will make very nice pinwheel kind of wave forms in a bead, and there's no limit to how many of them you can do on a particular bead, making kind of star and paisley shapes. To start with this design, I will need to construct a stringer. So I will melt a blue cobalt cane about 7 millimeters thick, and I'll melt it up into a glob and pull it out into a stringer. Remember, I have safety glasses, and you must always wear proper safety protection when making glass, doing flame works, so as to prevent injury or blindness to yourself. And there's a whole slew of other safety concerns. Please look at the safety video. Stop right now and go back to the safety video. If you haven't seen it, don't jump around, because that one is crucial. And follow it, and also do not use the safety video as exclusive information thinking you'll be safe. The best bet is to really work with a professional, either a teacher or in a school or a clinic, so you get live one-on-one guidance as to how to do lamp work safely and effectively. So with that proviso out of the way, let's go. I light my torch. I have a safety lighter, piezoelectric, not a regular lighter, because I don't want the propane in a lighter to explode. I tune my flame in. I have my cane of cobalt, and I introduce the glass to the torch right in the middle. I'm going to bulk it up and get a nice little football shape. I rest it here while I'm adjusting my torch. I want a nice kind of clean, not too hot, general purpose medium flame. And by clean I mean a fair amount of oxygen. I'm producing my own oxygen, which is a safer process than using tank oxygen under high pressure from a welding supply house. I have good ergonomic posture. I have a hand rest for my right arm to relieve stress on my forearm and my shoulder. Carpal tunnel syndrome is an issue for repetitive motion activities like bead making, so you want to have really good ergonomics, straight lines, and I'm not an expert on that, but I know that a hand rest helps, good posture helps. Nice, good little sort of onion. I'm going to kind of translate it in. I'm going to make it go into more of a football shape by pulling out slightly, reheating. Kind of a nice smooth shape. Rotate both rods to keep it from drooping too much. If it looks like it's getting out of control, just simply rotate it. When I feel I'm ready, you can play with it. And I will gradually start to pull out. Pulling slowly at first, slow, slow, slow. Letting it cool. I'm feeling that it's getting firmer and firmer. The diameter is shrinking. It's still moving, and now I can pull relatively hard. I have a fairly thick stringer at this point. Hot ends away. I want to break the tip off here. I don't know if you caught that, but it was simply by taking a cold tool onto a hot piece of glass that sets up a thermal crack, and you can get a nice clean break. And then let that air cool by setting the stringer in a rod rest, stainless steel rod rest. The next stage is to select a mandrel. In this instance, I'm going to use a 1/8 inch mandrel that's been pre-dipped with a commercial bead release preparation. In this instance, I am trying out Dirty Louie, named after Lewis Wilson. one of the pioneers in North American glasswork, lampwork. He has a number of instructional videos and puts on the Tucson Best Bead Show every winter in Tucson, where there is a very large assembly of handmade glass bead makers together in one place. Preheat my mandrel, making sure that the bead release is completely dry and all the moisture has been driven out of it. And I'm going to apply, basically a bicolor bead. By bicolor, I mean two colors, one half ivory in this instance, another half turquoise. So I'm keeping the bead release mandrel in the background, kind of nice and toasty, but not really nuking it hot in the forefront of the flame, but in the back once I've already dried it. Getting a gather going of the ivory, and I just loop it on. Easy does it. This is sort of an intellectual activity, bead making. This is not about force or brawn. It's really about mind and delicacy. A lot of thoughtfulness to bead making. You'll notice again how the bead is below the flame, not in the flame, as I'm applying the feed glass. And we already have a bead. Technically it's something with two holes, so it is a bead. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to add a second ring of color right next to the ivory. I'm not going to melt this down too much, the ivory one. I'm going to leave it outstanding in disc form while I lay on the glass for a second neighboring disc. And then I'll use the heat of the torch to collapse these two color zones, these two color discs together, creating a nice straight line, better than I could do by hand. So again, get a gather, mimic what you did in the first stage of doing the ivory. Notice I keep flashing back into the flame to keep the ivory bead warm. If I let it get too cold, the bead will crack and possibly flake off. The bead release will get all mucked up and you won't be able to go forward. Put on a second dollop. They're actually not touching, they could be. And because there is a space between these two colors of about 1/8 of an inch, I'm assured that when I bleed them together, I melt them together, I'll get a nice straight line. But I also will probably need to bulk up the ivory a little bit more because that 1/8 inch is a fairly significant gap. Optimal would be a finer line between them. If you could get it down to a 1/16 inch gap, if you have that much control, all the better. So I'm actually putting on a more generous amount of turquoise on the right bead than the ivory on the left. But I will go back and equalize them. There's no rule that they have to be equal. You know, basically just attempting to create a two-color zone bead. But for the purpose of, symmetry and harmony, I guess I'm just sort of opting for a 50-50 distribution of color. So let me go back and beef up that right ivory bead. And I'm going to try to kind of make it equivalent to what I already have with the turquoise bead. You can always add glass. You know, it's not like you have to finish the building of a bead in one step at all. It's a really nice, deliberative, incremental process. And the beauty of lamp work, which is what this is, torch work, flame work, it's all the same name for the same thing. But the beauty of lamp work is that it allows you to really take your time and to control the stages, to control the heat, sort of look at what's happening and go at the pace that you're comfortable with. There's not a lot of stress in this process. That got too hot to hold by hand, so I'm using a long nose plier. There are commercial cane holders available that you can use that will do it a little more safely. Because I have not ground my plier down, that little hot nub can easily pop out and burn you. So I would be better off if I use one of these fancy things. These are called, these are from Italy. They have a clamp, and you can put your stubs in the clamp like that, and it holds it securely, and you can work to your heart's content all the way down to the very tip of the stub. But you wouldn't want to heat the metal. There's also hemostats that have been configured with a little groove cut in them. You can see that. These are available from glass supply houses. I think this is called an Uncle Al grabber, or it might be a Murini hemostat. It goes by one of those names. Oh, I take that back. This is an Uncle Al rod grabber. And this is like the Italian version, but this is US made, and it's named after another semi-famous bead maker named Al Janelle. So you put your cane into the cradle, and it has a hemostat locking device, and you're good to go like that too. Anyways, enough of these tools for the moment. I should focus back on what I'm doing, because I don't want to crack these beads. I tune my flame a little hotter, a little more gas, a little more oxygen, using a Lynx, a GTT torch. It's surface mix. Very hot, very efficient, high-performance torch. Costs about $435 from Glass Torch Technology.